What's up, Star Wars nerds? On this edition of Hyperdrives, I will be reviewing the new Revenge of the Sith 2-pack of Obi-Wan Kenobi and the Airborne Clone Trooper. This was a Walmart exclusive, which had a lot of us very nervous because sometimes ordering Walmart exclusives does not go well. However, I had no issue securing a pre-order, and then I ended up canceling the pre-order because I actually found this at a local Walmart. Now, I am a huge fan of these 2-packs. I think they're a great way to secure a couple of releases that go together, and more importantly, a great way to keep the card backs inside safe and secure. However, Hasbro should not be including army builder figures with these 2-packs and locking them behind. People are going to want to collect several of these Airborne Clone Troopers and not want to have to buy both figures and have multiple Obi-Wans. I love that we're getting both of these figures, but the Clone Trooper that went with Obi-Wan should have been an all-new Commander Cody, and the Airborne Trooper should have been its own release separately. Now, Yakface has commented that the next Jedi Clone Trooper 2-pack from Revenge of the Sith will be even more frustrating than this one, which unfortunately leads me to believe that it may be an Anakin with another 501st Trooper, hopefully at least a different version than the one we've already gotten. Alright, so let's take a closer look at the 2-pack packaging. As you can see, this is Obi-Wan Kenobi Utapau, so this is intended to be the Utapau version of him that goes with that 212th Battalion, so not Mustafar, so just keep that in mind. Fantastic toy photography image there on the front. And then you've got a picture of the figure of Obi-Wan on one side and the Airborne Trooper on the other. There's a look at the top side of the packaging, and here is a look at the back showing what you're getting inside with the two carded figures. So great job by Hasbro, as always, on the art design of these packaging. I think they always look really good. All right, we're going to start with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Here is a look at the card back. I think it's a great image of Obi-Wan himself, great pose taken for the card back. However, it does appear to be photoshopped versus the background. I'm not sure if that's the case or not, but it does look a little bit fake. Now, there is a look at the back, VC398, and they've gone with this green color for the name pill and the color on the back. Overall, I think this is just an okay card back because the image chosen just seems too photoshopped versus an actual film out from the movie. All right, before we get to the figure itself, just a packaging note. I noticed Hasbro taped down this interesting plastic plate piece that helps hold the figure and the accessories in place. I'm not really sure why they felt the need to do this, but I'm sure it's for a good reason, and I'm all for extra protection for the product. So just curious if you guys have seen them do this on another figure that maybe I'm forgetting about. All right, so here's everything out of the packaging. Let's run through the accessories. Of course, you've got his lit lightsaber, nice metallic paint apps on that, the unlit version, which is an exact match, and a swappable hand so he can do a force push. All right, let's take a close look at the figure, starting with the head sculpt, and it's pretty good. Some of the features are a little softer than I'd prefer, but overall, I think they pretty much nailed the look of Episode 3 Obi-Wan. The hood is sewn down, just like A New Hope Ben Kenobi, so that's not really surprising. Let's take a look at the torso. Of course, you've got the soft goods for the lower half of his tunic below the waist, which we've kind of come to expect with a lot of these newer figures. There's a look at the detailing on his belt, which is fine. It's got some nice paint apps there. And here is the source of all the controversy, the knees. You know, I really thought people were blowing this out of proportion leading up to the release. I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, but it is pretty bad, guys. Obviously, that hinge should have been entirely above the boot, not eating into the boot. And so even if you bend the leg slightly, you're going to expose that tan colored hinge and it just looks bad. If you keep the legs straight, you don't see them and it seems to be fine. However, if you're looking from the back, those hinges are exposed, particularly if he's not wearing his cape. So I'd recommend probably keeping the cape on, or at least displaying him so you're not facing the back of the figure. So finally, having the figure in hand, being able to see it up close what is going on, I kind of get what the fuss is about. This is pretty bad, guys. Getting back to the rest of articulation, you do have a ball hinge at the ankle with rocker ankles. Now we'll take his robe off to get a closer look at the arms. His tunic is actually a softer plastic and it flexes, so you can get the arms up higher because it actually stretches there, so that's pretty cool. And then his arm actually gets more than 90 degrees, so that's great. My issue, however, is with the sleeve mold. It's a bit too long and it hinders the wrist. The wrists actually do have hinges, but they're hindered because of the mold of the sleeve. They just made those sleeves a little bit too long. You can't take full advantage of those hinges. It's going to make things a little bit tough for some lightsaber poses. Twisting side to side at the waist is restrictive but works, but bending forward and backward at the waist is impossible. You have to use the barbell hips to achieve that. So while the figure looks good and is definitely the best Episode 3 Obi-Wan we've ever gotten in 3 3/4 scale, I have to say this is a disappointing figure, mainly because of the knees, but also because of the restrictions at the wrist. We've just waited for so long for an Episode 3 Obi-Wan. The mold we've had in TVC dates back to like 2005, so we were expecting this to be a definitive release, and we can't say it's a definitive Obi-Wan with knees like that, unfortunately. So let's cleanse the palate, so to speak, and take a look at something a little more positive. This is the Airborne Clone Trooper 212th Battalion. Of course, you've got the Revenge of the Sith logo there in a great image. This, goes perfectly with the Commander Cody image we've had on that classic card back. And there's a look at the figure in the bubble, looking pretty awesome. And I really like the orange color they've chosen for the name pill and the color on the back. This is VC $3.99. Wow, guys, I can't believe we're getting into the 400s for Vintage Collection. That's awesome. And yeah, great looking card back. Really pleased with this one. So let's take a look at the figure. Alright, so here is everything out of the packaging. He comes with the standard clone weapons we're accustomed to. This is the long rifle, the very flimsy mold one. And then here is the standard blaster. So nothing surprising there. Let's take a closer look at the figure. Here is a look at the helmet mold. Pretty darn cool. A little bit softer with some of the features than I'd prefer, but not bad. Definitely some cool paint apps. Really digging the yellow paint apps of the pauldron. And like all the new Clone Trooper body figures, the pauldron is connected at the arm on the bottom versus the top. And I never really understood why they do that. I guess there's some advantage to the articulation connecting it that way. It doesn't really matter. There is a look at the arm. Nice paint apps there on the hand. There is nice soft plastic for the separate straps that run down the front of his body there. There is a look at the other pauldron, which is a different mold. Has that rigid part on there. Very cool looking. And of course, there is his pouch, which is removable. Very cool features on the body of this trooper. And there is a look at the soft goods comma. Really digging that. So overall, it's a very cool trooper. A lot going on with this one. The articulation is pretty much the same as all the new Clone Troopers you're used to. The helmet is on a ball. Elbow gets more than 90 degrees, really. And there is a nice side-to-side hinge at the wrist, which is great for holding weapons. Of course, it has barbell hips. The knee does get 90 degrees and it has a ball hinge at the ankle with rocker ankles. So pretty much all the articulation you need for a trooper. So overall, I think this is a fantastic addition to the Clone Troopers we have in TVC. Really glad we got this one. It's got everything you need. It looks good. Great paint apps. Of course, it's got the articulation. Good exterior features with the soft plastic and soft goods comma. It's just a shame that it got locked behind this particular 2-pack. Really needed to be its own individual release so people could army build them a little bit. Thanks for watching.